Now, for more on U.S. manufacturing, I spoke to Harry Moser. He's the founder of Reshoring Initiative, an effort to bring outsourced jobs back to America.
The catalyst was the loss of so many jobs. We calculate that the U.S. has a trade deficit, so roughly offshoring trade deficit of about 4 million manufacturing jobs. And that represents maybe 8 or 10 million total jobs, and therefore a huge impact on the U.S. economy. So we got to talking about it, first because it had such a serious impact on the economy, and then secondarily because it's starting to happen and we're at the right time for it to happen because of so many things that are happening in the world. The oil prices have been up, which raises the cost of shipping, and the companies are starting to recognize that there are a lot of costs that they've been ignoring. Many of them looked only at price and ignored the carrying cost of inventory, the travel costs, the intellectual property risk, all kinds of issues which vary from country to country. And as they've started to recognize all of those things, increasingly they find it makes sense to bring the work back.
Harry, we spoke to an expert yesterday who talked a little bit about how a lot of these manufacturers in the United States are having a tough time filling some of the roles because they require either special skills, a special set of regulatory licenses that they have to have, and it's not easy. You can't just go down the street and find qualified people. They have to be trained. What is America doing about that to make sure these workers are all well qualified?
First, let me comment that shortage is true almost everywhere in the world. I've been involved in international associations, and all the countries complain they do not have enough tool makers, precision machinists, welders. And as countries go up the scale, as they become richer, increasingly everybody wants to go to university and become a TV producer. So we have the shortage. U.S. probably is the most severe shortage, but it's also doing something about it. There's many community colleges are starting training programs. Many companies are starting apprenticeship programs.
You're seeing more and more foreign direct investment from outside the U.S. coming into the U.S. to build factories, build businesses, and ultimately create jobs. How big of a role does that play when you think of reshoring?
Okay. We differentiate between reshoring on the one hand and transplants or foreign direct investment on the other. Reshoring is by a U.S.-owned company, and transplant would be by another company, Lenovo, for example, building laptops over here. The two trends but they both are driven by the same thing, that it makes economic sense to produce near where the product is going to be consumed. And so the magnitude is probably roughly equal. Maybe the reshoring is a little higher. In the most recent year for which I have the data, reshoring was about 40 or 50,000 jobs, and the foreign direct investment was maybe about that or slightly less. But together that comes out to maybe 100,000 jobs a year, which is for the U.S. is a lot of jobs.
You have two major trade deals in the works, one in Europe and one in Asia, involving dozens and dozens of countries. Is that ultimately good for manufacturing jobs, in your opinion?
The groups that I trust and that have sent me information on this believe it is not good for the United States. The statistics that they have provided say that in almost every case when the U.S. does a trade deal, that our exports go down and our imports go up, that our trade deficit increases, and therefore it has not been good for the country. That that it focused mainly on trade deficit increases, and the administration talks only about the exports and it ignores the import consideration. So one of the things that most of the critics would say is that they'd be more supportive if the trade agreements included more restrictions on currency manipulation, which is one of the reasons that the trade deficits and the offshoring has been so big.